suspect one of the things that I've heard a lot of over the last 2 days or day and a half is people talking about change. And Owen talked about it this morning when he was talking about Sir Ralph Norris, the culture of engagement and the changing culture that's required there. Tim talked about it yesterday. Miles talked about it yesterday when he was talking about New Zealand Post going to Google. Denise talked earlier on about culture and behaviour changes and whatever else. To me, transformation is all around change. Transformation is what takes us beyond normal IT projects. The standard IT projects, put in a new server, roll out Exchange or something like that. Transformation is something for me that makes some fundamental changes to the way organisations work. So what I'm going to talk about is a major transformation that I got involved in a few years ago. It was actually back in 2001. And in order to protect the innocent, the example is actually taken from Malaysia rather than New Zealand, so nobody here can get embarrassed. It was an interesting project. It was a Government of Malaysia initiative, which was all about putting in e-government services. And they put together a program of 5 different major projects. The one I got involved in was the GOE, or Generic Office Environment. This was putting in, I think, what we see today as pretty standard sort of technology, the standard desktop. But they took it a long way further. They fully automated workflow, so any document coming into the initial pilot agencies was scanned, it was imaged, security layers were wrapped around it, and then it was workflowed all the way through from collection in the mailroom right through to action and archiving. What it created was a substantial change for the way people in Malaysian government worked. And back in 2000, 2001, this was pretty new stuff. It was leading edge. The objective was to create this environment and then to roll that out right across Malaysian government. And it did go okay, and it has subsequently been rolled out across more and more agencies. It was all around getting the right information to the right people at the right time. It was tracking workflow and work, and making sure that responses were made to work as it came in, and so on. So, who was involved? I guess it was an organisation that I hadn't come across before. Sapura Corporation in Malaysia was one of these big conglomerates. They were into oil and gas and public transport and so on. But they had a group called Sapura Advanced Systems, which was their IT outfit. They pulled together a group of contractors. So there was Microsoft. We were using Exchange. We were putting in the whole workflow was enabled through the Outlook. HP at the back end, EDS on a lot of the business process side of things. And there was another company there which I haven't put up, who were responsible for the change management. And this was a bit embarrassing for them, so I won't put their name up there. Our client was the 4 key organisations who sort of tied in with the Prime Minister's department. So there was MAMPU, the Administrative Modernisation and Management Planning Unit. They were a little bit like the early days of MED. Their job was to bring together a lot of these change functions in Malaysia. Finance and Administration, the Prime Minister's office, and Cabinet Office. The organisation I worked for was a small company called Mercatella. We got formed in the dot-com era. There were only about 50 of us in Malaysia, but we had offices across Southeast Asia. Unfortunately, 12 months later, there were about 10 people left out of the original 250 that we had back in 2000. So it was one of these companies that grew and then collapsed pretty quickly when the work died away. But it was a good little project, and we had some real challenges. So what happened was the consortium had come together in 98. They'd started developing the solution and everything else for the Malaysian government, but then something went wrong. The change management partner decided that they'd completed their work back in 2000. The project was due to go live in May 2001. So the consortium were faced with a bit of a dilemma. So they engaged us to come in and bring our small change management team in to actually deliver the change management capability that was needed. Our brief was to complete the change management program, but in the build-up to it, we'd also discovered that the GOE users and the pilot agencies really didn't understand what was going on and what the new systems were that they were having to deliver on. The management, the executive level, weren't really across the mind shift changes they need to make to actually make the new systems work within their organisation seamlessly. And the third thing was the various project teams who were involved right across the program were focused on their bit of work. They didn't understand what the other organisations were doing, and they didn't understand how all of the changes they were making needed to be brought together to deliver a coherent whole. So, how did we do it? We put together 6 major streams of work. We created readiness building workshops, and this was fun. A dozen training sessions had to be delivered in Bahasa Malay, so we were having to call on Malay speakers to deliver these. 640 users, and a massive program of work in driving out an understanding, demonstrations, presentations on what this new capability was all about. We created a project newsletter, a monthly newsletter, the GOE Express, which was a 1.5, maximum 2-pager, which gave a very brief outline of what had been done to date, what was coming up, what they could expect to be delivered over the next month in terms of training, in terms of preparation, and there was a big countdown date as to when Go Live was going to happen. We managed the change management activities across all of the different project streams that were going on. We created technical checklists to make sure that as change activities were being delivered, they were being ticked off, that we were getting acceptance back from the customer, that the right things were being done. Once we got into implementation, we provided a very, very heavy on-site support from day one right through the rollout to make sure that the moment somebody had a problem, it was resolved. They had go-to people to get it resolved. And something that Denise talked about this morning, which struck me, and it was a key part of what we were doing, was the benefits realisation. So it's actually going out there and helping the Malaysian government to assess the fact that what was being delivered was delivering the benefits that they'd put up in the original business case. And as Denise said this morning, a lot of times people forget about benefits realisation. What did we do in there? That was all around work methods. It was around organisational benefits. It was around the program benefits. A substantial amount of work going in there to ensure that everything that went into the business case, and this was being driven by Prime Minister Mahathir, for those of you who've come across that gentleman, a very driven chap. He had gone out and made very big public statements to the Malaysian community, to the international community about what he was doing with e-government. We had to make sure that he was a very, very satisfied end user. What did I learn from it? This wasn't something of my making, but I've done a lot of change management over the years. Change management to me is an absolute key process in any transformation projects. In the projects I've done since then, I actually reckon that the technology implementation is about 20% of the project. It's the business process change, it's the change management, it's getting the people on board that really, really make the difference. And that's what change management's all about. Too many organisations underestimate it. And the moment they see technology being implemented, oh, it's an IT project, the IT guys can take care of it and we don't have to bring anybody else on board. Part of the problem's being exacerbated today, I guess, by the likes of iPads and the new smart devices, because they are so intuitive to use, that there's a mindset that when we put in big technology change, well, it's going to be intuitive and people are going to pick it up. that's not the case, especially when you're putting in big new systems which change the way people work. Things like ERPs, things like big workflow projects and so on. Fundamental changes to the way people work, you've got to bring them on the journey. Second big learning for me is change management is not complete until well after the project's been rolled out. And that was a really critical one. The moment you go live, you don't take the change management efforts away. There's all the follow-up, there's the dealing with problems and incidents as they happen, it's making sure people are comfortable, it's then going in, as I said, doing the benefits assessment and actually making sure that we are realising the benefits that we said we were going to up front. And, if necessary, going in and doing the remediation. The final really big lesson for me is communication with stakeholders is the most critical of all the change activities. Because unless people understand and we can answer the what's in it for me question, you're not going to get that engagement, you're not going to get that buy-in. People don't like surprises. You've got to let them know what's happening, when it's happening, what they can expect, when is the change going to happen to them personally. The banner down the bottom was the headline for the GOE Express. As I say, we put that out on a monthly basis. There was the big countdown calendar. People knew what was going on. They knew what to expect when agencies were being targeted. Very, very focused communication to those agencies so they knew what was going on and when it was going on. A few issues, teething problems around it. My Malay's not very good. I had a team of translators who would have to translate it, but then what I'd do is get another translator to translate it back to English to make sure that what I'd said was going to happen was what they were reporting on, what was going to happen, and not some other local flavour. But communication, 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 absolutely critical in any transformation exercise.